morning. Welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's online worship. I'm Mike Williams. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I serve on the congregation's Board of Trustees. We're a freely gathered, open, welcoming community supported by your contributions, which can be made with the donate button on our website, by going to our Breeze program if you already are a member, or by mailing a check to 524 Allen Avenue, Portland, Maine, which hopefully will all be in person again sometime soon. Please note if the donation is your pledge or a gift to our Share the Plate for October. Our Share the Plate for October is Maine Unitarian Universalist Social Action Network, also known as MUSAN, and they are the public voice of UU congregations across the state supporting legislative initiatives which reflect our UU values. To learn more about this program, please go out to the MUSAN website linked on our order of service today. You're invited to join us today, October 11th, at 10:45 a.m. for our congregational conversation and coffee hour. This Zoom link can be found on our website and order of service. To learn more about Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church, please go to our website at a2u2.org.
Our call to worship words this morning are those of the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Though you have been warned and given plenty of explanations, reasons to do otherwise, you have persisted. You've persisted to claim a life of joy and justice and to carve out this time for renewal, this time for your own heart, despite the din demanding your attention, luring you toward fear and cynicism. You persist with gratitude for this day, for this life that has been given this chance to begin again. Despite all the forces of fragmentation, the disappointing ways we fail each other, fail ourselves, we must refuse to let grief undo us or let our dreams get lost along the way. In spite of all the evidence, we keep showing up at the edge of our own longing, and then we keep going, remembering this duty we have to life. In a greater sense, this duty we have to each other, our children, and their children. This hope that is also a choice we make, this promise we fight for, to persist in kindness, persevere in compassion, and prevail in a life that is bound entirely to love. Come, let us worship together. Join in singing now our opening hymn, Find a Stillness.
As we light this chalice, may it serve to give us clarity of purpose and illumine our way as we set about doing the work of this congregation in commitment, in cooperation, and in love.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we pay attention to and what we listen to. Now there's ways to listen with our ears and ways to listen with our eyes, the ways to listen with our hearts. And today I wanted to just tell you a little bit about how they all kind of work together. So first of all, I want to let you know that part of listening for me with my ears is that I wear these little things called hearing aids. And so they clip shut. You can see that happen. And then they go right in. And I am not the only one in the congregation who has these. So next time we're together, you could notice with your eyes, who else might have these hearing aids? Just like my glasses help me see, my hearing aids help me hear. So once upon a time, and this is a pretend but sometimes real story, so it's kind of mixed up. Kate, my wife, and I lived in the country, and we would go on walks together. And sometimes I would be a little bit distracted, and so we would walk around, and it would almost be for her like walking by herself, because I kind of is in my own thoughts. I don't know if that ever happens to you. It might happen that you could notice that when your parent or guardian says to you, "Did you hear me? I wanted to know if you finished your homework." And you'd say, "What? No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you." Or perhaps you were playing with something that was so fun that when they told you to clean your room, you totally didn't hear that until the second or third time. That used to happen to me a lot when I was a younger person. So back to the story of walking. Kate and I were walking, and we lived in a place that had lots of noise. Sometimes it was like the wind, like a really loud wind tunnel. And other times it was really quiet, and all you could hear were the birds flying over. But we also had these ponds down at the bottom of our road, and I don't think they were very appealing because they had this kind of green film over them and grass around them, but they were interesting, and it was the perfect place for these things called peepers to live. Now, I don't think that's the real name, and I'm not even sure what kind of animal made the sound, but they were these little faint sounds that when I was close enough and I had my hearing aids in, I could hear them. And it just reminded me of something really peaceful. And so today, part of what we're talking about and what I invite you to do this week is to pay attention to things that you find interesting and notice what it is in your life that brings you joy. And I am going to invite you to email me pictures as you want to. What are the things this week that bring you joy? What are the things that help you feel connected to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church? And what are the things in your family that help you to realize that you are part of this family? And next week, we'll make a little bit of a video out of those pictures that you send me, and we will show that at coffee hour. And so I invite you this week, in whatever way you hear, whether it's through your ears or through your eyes or through your heart, to spend time this week finding joy. I invite you into the spirit of prayer or meditation with these words from Mark Bellatini. Let the difficulties of the week take their Sabbath now, their brief and simple rest. Let the worries of the week lay their heft gently onto the dark earth below, this carpeted floor which can bear them with greater ease than any one of us can by ourselves. Let the tangle of feelings, the pull and push of these last 7 days sit still for a minute. Stop writhing in my heart and move no more than a Buddha at rest under a tree. Let there be stillness in my heart for a moment, like the pause of a dancer between movements in the music. Let the breathing in this shared space be free and flowing. Let pulses trance a slower rhythm in the wrist. Let the coming of silence be like hands pulling back a curtain, revealing the table set with the feast of life, which is present here and now, and has been the whole while. Present to those who give up living in either the past or the future. Our reading, How to Survive the Apocalypse. The words of the Reverend Sean Dennison. First, learn to listen, not only for the enemies around corners and in hidden places, but for the faint footsteps of hope and the whisper of resistance. Hone your skills, aim your heart toward kindness, and stockpile second chances. Under the weight of destruction, we will need the strong shelter of forgiveness and the deeper wells that give the sweet water of welcome. We have a place for you. When the world ends, we must not add destruction to destruction, not accept a beggar's bargain to fight death with more death. In order to survive the apocalypse, any apocalypse at all, we have to give up the counterfeit currency of self-sufficiency, the mistaken addiction of competition, the lie that the last to die has somehow survived. Please join in singing Spirit of Life. In any given day, my attention wanders into the background noise of life. The siren in the distance, the tasks that clutter my mind, and the intentions looming large just beyond my to-do list. Do you ever have those days when you greet the day with, in a little while, after, today for sure, I'm going to, later, maybe tonight? The distractions pull me off my center, intentions fading into the background, not resurfacing until sometime later. I'm nudged either by my own realization, which can be paired with that eye twitch or sense of overwhelm. Sometimes it's quiet reflection that brings me back to a center place, or a tender conversation with others that invites me to shape my days with intentionality and connection. The instruction manual reads, "Do not try this on your own." It could be referring to skydiving for the first time, which my mother did for her 70th birthday. They turned her away 2 years in a row, and finally at 73, she jumped out of that plane because they figured she is not going away. She asked me if I wanted to go jumping with her, and I told her I'm not old enough to skydive yet. Eventually, she took off in the small plane with the pilot and the jumping instructor. A few minutes later, she was floating down to earth, attached to the instructor with the parachute fully open. I asked her what she noticed on the way down, and she said she watched the landscape and the trees and the clouds. It was beautiful. She enjoyed the view. It was only scary the first few seconds when we jumped out of the plane, she said. She floated through the sky attached to her guide. Do not try this on your own. It could be referring to skydiving or constructing a piece of IKEA furniture that arrives with what seems like millions of pieces that fall out of the box. Or it might be referring to swimming, which I was told as a child, don't try this on your own. It's the lesson of 12-step recovery groups, Buddhist sanghas, our congregation, and our Unitarian Universalist Association. Do not try this on your own. Could be the first line in life's lesson manual. Life teaches us this lesson over and over and over again. Our faith community helps us practice this very spiritual practice. My motto in ministry, I have a few, and we could have a longer conversation about all of them, but one of my mottos is never do alone what you could possibly do with 5 or more people. Now, it's not always easy to reach out for help, and sometimes doing things with others takes more time, more coordination, more patience, more flexibility. We get impatient. The lesson isn't always as clear as it was when my mother jumped out of the plane. I know there's been times in my life when I thought I could go it alone, only to have life remind me once again that that's not the way it works. Sometimes celebrations have reminded me that I just want to share this joy with other people. And at other times I have been brought to my knees in grief to be reminded in that place that connections are so important. Some of us experience this kind of connection through a humanist lens. Others of us feel like that sacred space we create together is something of a mystery. And some of us refer to this sense of connection as God. Unitarian Universalism covenants to affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. These two principles of ours invite us into the spiritual practice of living in community with each other and the world. Church is just one of the places where we can practice what it means to be fully and wholly human. We practice shaping our days with love, falling short, practicing forgiveness, and stockpiling second chances. We're invited back again and again to the guidepost of intentionality and love. This month, our worship theme is deep listening. My colleague, the Reverend Diana Smith, also currently using Soul Matters resources, reminds me there are many things we listen to. The land, sounds, pictures, history, art. People who are very much still here despite the genocide and centuries of oppression. We listen with our hearts to each other and to our community. As Diana and I spoke about what it was like to be daughters, I was reminded about the importance of relationship. In our conversation, we talked about the complex ways that we do engage in storytelling. We tell these complex stories from our own personal and family lives, and sometimes the stories are from the greater world. Tomorrow, Indigenous Peoples Day, invites us to think about how we listen and to who. To paraphrase Walter Brueggemann, every time an oppressed group tells one of its stories, it means an assault and a refutation of another dominant story. Diana reminded me that this kind of listening is just part of rewriting history to be more accurate and more true. And she went on to say, only listening and telling more complex, truer stories isn't enough. It's the barest starting place. As a congregation, we are moving beyond that starting place, and you have done work for years before I ever arrived here to be part of this community. You are involved in the Family Promise program. You have groups that are choosing to engage study together. You have members who are part of Maine Unitarian Universalist Social Action Network, engaging us and inviting us to think about how we use our faith in the world, how we choose to use our faith at the polls. Allen Avenue UU Church is continuing to grow and to change and to incorporate these important ways of being together with both our own community and beyond. Don't try this on your own. In order to survive an apocalypse, any apocalypse at all, we have to give up the counterfeit currency of self-sufficiency. Let this community remind you of your center. Let it be a place to practice the art of living with love. Please sing as you feel moved at home to the loudest possible volume you want, to the next hymn, Over My Head. To what do we attend? Let this question kind of percolate in your week throughout the week. Notice the places where you find your center, and notice when you're pulled off and distracted by the noise of life, the noise of politics, the distracting things that can pull us away from our core. Know that this place is here. We are here for you. Find your centering word for the week. Come back to it again and again. And let this chalice continue to breathe light into your week, although we extinguish it for our time today.